Welcome to Scrum Down. This is the show that gives you all news, views, and reviews on regional rugby matters. I'm your host, Larry Asego, and I'm joined by Jothan, Makanga, and of course, level 4 trained coach from Crusaders, Tito Oduk. Tito, does that thing ever get old, a level 4 trained coach from Crusaders?
No, it never gets old.
You're happy to hear it?
It's a humbling title.
My question is, the first 3 levels, where were you trained?
My first 3 levels, locally.
Locally?
Yeah.
Okay, so the level 4 had to go to Crusaders?
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Yes.
Anyway, fantastic. Now, listen, talking about Machakos, there was a fantastic rugby action over the weekend. Match day 4 of the Bamburi Rugby Super Series. 2 big games. The first one, of course, was between Chui and Papa. Chui is a franchise composed of the Ngong Road sides. They call them the Ngong Road United.
Impala, Nondis, Kenya Harlequins.
Yes,
bit of rivals on any given day.
And they played Papa, which is a franchise of Mwamba RFC, KCB, and Homeboys. That was the first game. The second game was quite a cracker of a game between Kifaru, which is the university's franchise, and they were taking on Ndovu, teams from Nakuru. We've got Western Bulls and Kisumu.
Yeah.
Fantastic rugby action all through. But of course, we start off with the first game that was between Chui and Papa. In case you missed the action, this is what went down.
The Machakos Stadium hosted the 2014 Bamburi Rugby Super Series semi-finals, the first time ever that the town hosted a match of the Super Series. Nguvu Papa and Bolore Chui opened the semi-finals showdown in Machakos. Fullback Peter Kefa kicked Papa into a 3-0 lead with only 3 minutes played. This was what Papa needed, as soon after, Alpha Setemesi crossed the whitewash for an unconverted try. Papa had their tails up, and with the game approaching the quarter-hour mark, Captain Alan Amuka scored the second try. Peter Kefa was sure with the conversion, and suddenly Papa were 15-0 up in this half that they totally dominated. Tony Mateo was sent to the sin bin to give a one-man advantage to Papa. The momentum slowed down a bit, Peter Kefa kicking over a penalty for Papa, and George Okoa returning the favour for Chui. Papa had the last say of the half, centre Brian Amondi notching the 3rd try for Papa. The halftime score was a flattering 23-3 lead for Papa. If Papa had the momentum in the first half, then Chui commanded the second. The tide changed, and after relentless pressure, George Okoa kicked over a penalty for Chui for 23-6 on the scoreboard. Okoa then scored a try as Chui clawed back to 23-11. Fly half Shabani Ahmed danced through the gaps in the Chui defence for an easy try.
Shabani Ahmed.
Kefa's conversion pushed the score to 30-11. Then the comeback began. Richard Sidindi stole a stray pass and then showed a clean pair of heels to score. More pressure on the Papa defence gifted Chui a try. Brian Beckham on the score sheet. Okoa converted as Chui came to within 7 points of Papa, but there was no way through and time was running out. Papa held on for the 30-23 win. In the second semi-final, defending champions Ndovu were up against the very unpredictable Kifaru. George Mutuku drilled home a 5th-minute penalty as Kifaru took a 3-0 lead. Harun Lubisia then extended Kifaru's lead with a drop goal 5 minutes later to double the lead to 6-0. On 17 minutes, the true colours of Ndovu emerged, a quick passing move resulting in a try by winger Javan Murai. At 6-5, Kifaru still dictated the pace of this match. A converted try by Ezra Lagat gave Kifaru some breathing space as they now led 13-5. Kifaru took their chance, Mutuku kicking over another penalty to stretch the lead to 5-16 in favour of Kifaru. Ndovu would claw back in the second half, Captain Edwins Makori scoring from a trademark rolling maul. With Calvin Otieno's conversion, it was 16-12 with barely 2 minutes left on the clock. Kifaru lost fly half George Mutuku with a concussion suffered while tackling Jacob Smovali. Harun Labisia took over the kicking duties and put over the penalty to give Kifaru a 19-12 lead. With the clock ticking, Kelvin Omio powered his way into the Kifaru try box. Jothan Murai was under pressure to convert, and he did to tie the score 19-19 and sent the game into sudden death extra time. Whoever scores first wins the match. Did you think that your team had the pedigree to upset the defending champions?
We knew we were heavy underdogs coming into this game, but yes, we knew we could beat them.
The final, to be played in Nairobi, will pit new favourites Papa against the now determined Kifaru. This is the second time in Super Series history that a game has gone into extra time sudden death. But this game still holds a record for the longest period of sudden death having been played. Harun Labisia's penalty caused the upset of the tournament. This is the end of the road for defending champions Ndovu.
Well, that's so much for the first semi-final. The second semi-final was actually the big game. Everybody said that Ndovu was going to run over Kifaru, but that was not the case. Kifaru had a different plan for this entire game, and Jothan is
Not
burning.
everybody put their money on Ndovu.
Yes,
I think before the game, I think I told you to judge.
Yeah, Jothan, before the game, he said that there might be some surprises. But, I mean, that was actually an interesting performance by Kifaru. We have the Kifaru coach right here. Going into this game, did you expect that final result?
I've always expected my team to get to the final, but the style in which we did it, I'm still recovering. It was a crack of a match.
True.
Yes.
True. What is it that you did right, or what is it that Ndovu did wrong?
What we did right, because I concentrate on what we can control, is we're playing a much heavier side, so play in their half. Play in their half, it was a territory-based game. Secondly, avoid any contact.
Oh, yes.
We moved the ball around, their heavier boys got tired, and you could see it in sudden death. They were dead off their feet.
True,
it was just a question of time before we scored.
In addition to that also, I think it's well-known knowledge, kicking a ball, it takes a longer time for the bigger guys to turn around and chase the ball and once again attack. So, I mean, I taught you well, like, probably.
Yeah, no, in terms of bigger guys starting around, Jothan would know all about it. It takes you so much time.
I am big power and muscle. There's a big difference.
The thing is this. With the great respect to Ndovu, because I think they're actually a brilliant side. They've got a heavy pack, which is predominantly Nakuru RFC. Yeah. On that day, they were just not there. They were just being shoved. And of course, I have to give kudos. If you ask me, man of the match for that game would have been the number 8 from Kifaru.
The captain.
Rocky, yes. He was really there. In all the molds, he was there. In the lineouts, he was fighting. And if you look at some of the molds, I mean, the Nakuru forwards, basically because that's what the composition of the team is, they were just there. And of course, Ndovu were absent.
I think they were shocked. They didn't expect us to take them on up front in the molds and the scrums like that. So, given what had happened against the Ruenzori the previous week, so when we took them on at their strengths, they were a bit surprised. And by the time they could react and show up their scrum, I think the game, they were chasing the game.
They were chasing the game, but one interesting talking point is the number of penalties conceded in this entire tournament. I mean, we are just giving away too many penalties. Is it because of lack of match fitness? What is it? Don't we understand the rules? As a coach, I mean, why do we see an influx of penalties? Why?
I think we're a bit ignorant of the laws of rugby, to be honest. And it is mandatory that all players, especially at this elite level, should do level 1 coaching so that they understand what a ruck is, what a maul is. Because you saw it even with Tusker Simba in South Africa, too many penalties. And it was always on interpretation of the rugby laws, at the rucks, at the molds. That's where Kenya is being penalized the most.
Okay.
But then also the other side of the story when it comes to the kicking game, coming into this match day 4, we had, I think, 39% successful conversion rate, which is really, really bad. And if we are to play at a higher level, we do know everything comes down to that final kick. So yes, apart from interpretation of the laws, big other question should be, are our teams, as a team, really training on kicking, or do we just have individual players who are given the responsibility, whenever you have time, go ahead and kick?
We have an interesting final that is going to be between Kifaru and they're going to be taking on Papa. Now, this is a repeat performance of the pool stages.
Yes, it's now Kakamega 2. Yes.
You guys lost that game by...
We lost it on the last play, 2 points. But rather than bring the team down, that was the galvanizing point of the team. And it's brought the team back up. And we've built up, every performance has been built on what happened in Kakamega. Okay. So it's good. It will be a good rematch.
Well, only time will tell. We are going for a short break, and when we come back, we are going to be focusing on the Kenya Cup big final. Welcome back to Scrum Down, where all the rugby conversation is taking place. You can be part of the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at Scrum Down Rugby, or you can look us up on Facebook. That is Scrum Down. We'd love to hear comments from you. Now, moving on straight to the Kenya Cup finals. It was a big game between two big rivals. That is Nakuru RFC, and they were playing KCB. These are the highlights from that game.
Eccolo come the first scorer, and that pushes forward that in a top try with the conversion to count.
Moving straight into rugby legends, gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to a guy who needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever. He started off his rugby career in terms of club rugby at Impala RFC, later on moved to Nondies, and of course he has been Kenya coach of both 15s and the 7s version of the game. He right now is doing so much in terms of developing the sport, in terms of taking it outside the country, Machakos, Kitui. He's even talking about taking the rugby to Bomet. I'm talking about none other than Benjamin Ayimba.
I'm Benjamin Ayimba. I'm a rugby enthusiast. I'm a family person. I'm an entrepreneur by ambition, and I like to make things happen. Rugby, because it's my passion, I've stuck to it. As a business, I do branding, which is basically visibility, so to speak.
He represents the modern-day rugby legend, a man who achieved it all as a player and as a coach as well. The journey started way back in 1996 at Impala RFC, a team that played in the lower division of Kenya Rugby, the Eric Shirley Shield.
It was very difficult to break through to the national team. And of course, that was compounded by the fact that the Impala people are not the it kind of guys, the ghetto boys and stuff. So it was very difficult breaking into the national team. Then we didn't have as many competitions. But the few that were there were very coveted, so it was important that you make it the national team.
Selection into the national team was by a panel that observed the players during trials for national team selection. Ayimba went for one of the trials in 1996 and decided to give it his best shot.
That day, I think I gave it my all, and that was the beginning of it all.
Not many opportunities were available, with only 3 or 4 tournaments a year. It was not until 1999 that the Kenya team was invited for the IRB 7th circuit. Then the big break for Ayimba and the Kenya 7s team came in 2003, 5 years after their first invitation to play in the IRB 7th circuit.
We were invited to Hong Kong. On that occasion, beat Australia, got to the quarterfinals. And that was how we started being a core team, because after that, when we ended that season ended, we had qualified to have enough points to get to a core team. Then the core teams were 8. We ended up 8th.
As a coach and player, his last game was in 2006. Very few players in rugby get to be the captain and the coach, but Ayimba was the captain and then coach for both the national 7s rugby team as well as the national 15s team. Quite a remarkable achievement.
I had an advantage because then there was very few people with proper understanding of the rugby game, and for me it was a passion that I wanted to. It's something I dedicated my life to, and I think just because of the sheer dedication and time that I gave it, I became a little better in its understanding and playing it.
After 8 years at Impala RFC, Ayimba defected to Nondescripts RFC. There he met Dickie Evans, a gentleman from England who was a big supporter of Kenya rugby. His contribution to Kenya rugby included giving exposure to Kenyan rugby players. 2010 was a big year for Ayimba as the coach of the Kenya Sevens rugby team. The team had taken the IRB circuit by storm, reaching a cup final and making the semi-final of the Sevens Rugby World Cup. This caught the attention of the then head of state, President Mwai Kibaki.
I'm now an OGW, which is Order of the Grand Warrior. It is, I think, 3rd tier in terms of presidential awards, and this was in recognition to my contribution to the game of rugby. I think anyone wants to get that kind of commendation, especially from the president, and I feel very honored. It's a very humbling gesture.
Despite the achievements in rugby, Benjamin Ayimba still has a burning desire, and the desire is to spread the game of rugby to all the parts of Kenya.
I know what I can do now to change the face of rugby in Kenya. I can go out there, I can go to every county and set up rugby clubs and rugby playing culture. That I'm able to do, and I probably will do. It already started. So I went to Bomet the other day and I was very humbled. I went to this school, and they play rugby in a pitch that is really between classes, and I was shocked that they knew who I was. And after that, the way they crowded the car I was in, that was very humbling. I think for me that's a satisfaction that I need to have. I'll probably go out there, sink my head a little more, see if one day I stand out and my name is written somewhere in the Kenyan rugby scene.
Ayimba is living his dream, from the Masaku Sevens to Kitui Sevens and rugby in Bomet. The dream is slowly becoming a reality for one of the most decorated rugby sons of Kenya.
And that's one way of getting it there.
So that was Benjamin Ayimba, a true rugby legend. Tito, you've played with Benjamin Ayimba before.
Yes.
What can you say about him as a player, as a coach?
Benja is a man who wears his heart on his sleeve, and you always know where you stand by with Benja. There is no second guessing.
He doesn't mince his words.
He doesn't mince his words, and same way he played his rugby is the same way he's doing his rugby development. Very aggressive, going all out against all odds, and he's doing a fantastic job of it.
Jothan, you might never have had the opportunity to play with Benja.
Oh, no, I haven't. I haven't played with him, and I haven't been coached by him. But from what I've seen on the outside, I think he's a man led by passion and ability. He has the passion, but he also has the ability and the experience, either as a coach and also as a player too.
Well, the conversation still continues here on Scrum Down. Follow us on Twitter at Scrum Down Rugby. We're on Facebook, Scrum Down. We'd like to hear your views, news, and reviews on anything you think about the show. Now, next week, we are going to have interesting rugby action. That is the finals. And we're going to have Papa. They're going to be taking on Kifaru, the university side. And, of course, the Kifaru coach is right here. Do you think
he's a happy man?
I want to ask you one straight question. Yes. Do you have what it takes to finish them off? Because you've played them before and you lost that game.
All I can say is that we are the underdogs.
You're not the underdogs anymore. You beat Ndovu.
Yes, we did. We have what it takes. We have the collective will to win. But that day, it's all about execution for the 80 minutes, keeping our concentration.
Jothan, where are you going to put your money?
Kifaru all the way.
Kifaru all the way?
Kifaru all the way.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to call it. I'm not going to call
They
it.
have shown as you put it, the determination and the will, And also a very, very important fact, they're being trained by a Crusaders trained level 4 coach.
Ah, come on,
What
man.
more could
That
you ask
brings us
for?
to end. The other big game for that weekend is going to be an international friendly, international in the context that Kenya team is going to be taking on Western Province as we prepare for the big one. We're trying to qualify for the World Cup. Western Province, do you think this is a good enough opposition for the national team, Tito?
Western Province is a quality side. But I'd have preferred we played a team like Portugal.
Yes.
Okay, the game has been moved forward because playing against a national team like Portugal actually impacts on our IRB rankings.
Yes.
We have a chance to rise higher. Then Western Province, I don't think they'll bring a really full strength side. Yeah, so in terms of quality of opposition, Portugal is a much better prospect.
But we take any opposition that we can because it's all about match fitness. Just remind you, the conversation doesn't stop on Scrum Down. Follow us on Twitter at Scrum Down Rugby. We are on Facebook, Scrum Down. We'd like to hear your comments on the show. Now, that is all we have time for in this episode of Scrum Down, and we are leaving you with the Scrum Down fact of the week. And the fact of the week is, and I'm sure Tito is going to be glad to hear this, this is the first time that a university franchise has made it to the finals of the Bamburi Rugby Super Series. Think about that.